Hello, it's Anna Tam here, and today I'm going to give you an artist insight into making a video of a concert, basically. So this one is going to be quite technical, folks. So this is about the process of planning a performance and recording it. We filmed a concert with my folk and early music group Wilde Roses for our fans and supporters, so I'm here now just to tell you how we did it, and you can see there's going to be a few bits of technical stuff. So first, let me tell you about Wilde Roses. So Wilde Roses specialise in British music from the whole of the British Isles, from anonymous composers of the medieval and Renaissance periods, and also the more historical songs and tunes from the British folk traditions. I've also composed a few songs for the group using ancient lyrics that we no longer have melodies to. There's so many lyrics that we don't have the dots to, so sometimes I like to put myself in the shoes of medieval composers and to create things from that. So our style isn't purely authentic. We use some later instruments such as the nickel harper, and we also do allow our own musical voice into our arrangements, but it is very historically informed. The languages, the instruments, the styles, there's a lot of respect and love going into that. So here is a little flavour from the concert that we filmed of what we do.
Ik had dat buricht dat salig aan die zon ziet, mengs vallen maar nog niet, waren vrij davon. In all this worldly one, a bird of blood and of bone, never yet he knows none, knows more in London. Lord, northern wind, send the moon is wetting. Blow, northern wind, blow, blow, blow.
You'll see from the video that we were in an absolutely beautiful location. We considered a few venues as a sort of starting point for the atmosphere we wanted to create through the concert, through the film of the concert, and we decided to develop a relationship with the church's conservation trust that we can build in the future together. We have a lot of shared values because we're both preserving historical British culture for generations to come. So we looked at St Mary's Church, Edlesborough in Buckinghamshire because it's beautiful and very atmospheric. It dates from the 14th century, which is very appropriate to the music that we're going to record. And we also chose it because it's in quite a remote location. So from a practical point of view, we wouldn't have so many noises from outside of the church to contend with whilst we were recording. Another huge bonus, and this is an interesting idea from the Church's Conservation Trust, is champing. So we knew that we would spend a little bit of time rehearsing together as a group and then recording, perhaps on the next day, and we needed somewhere safe to put the equipment, to put our instruments, and also to put us. So the Church's Conservation Trust are doing something called champing, where you can actually stay the night in a church, and I would recommend it. It is amazing, for the robust people. I happen to love bats, so that was quite exciting that we got to also sleep with them. So I want to thank the main funders of this project. It's you, and it's also the Royal Philharmonic Society Enterprise Fund in association with Harriet's Trust. Thank you for your amazing support, which enabled us to book this church and be able to spend enough time there to rehearse and to make something that was really beautiful together. Not only did it enable us to get the venue, it also enabled us to purchase some of the equipment and for me to take some lessons in sound engineering so that after we'd recorded, I would be able to work on mixing those mixing the sounds that we've got. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. So, yes, equipment. Since COVID, my knowledge of audiovisual technology has been accelerated for a folk and medieval musician. And what I've found is how empowering that this is as an artist, and also how much fun it can be. I have always been a visual person as well as an or oral person, but I haven't had so many opportunities in my musical life to develop that. So making videos is something that I'm now really excited about. The skills that I've got from this project and from other things in lockdown have enabled me to create lots of beautiful videos, including my weekly Folk from the Boat series on YouTube, you can see, on Thursday evenings. And that's something that's continuing not just because of the COVID, because of the lockdowns, but it's continuing in the future now to connect me with a global amazing audience. So let's get to the specifics of what we used. And there would be other setups that would make a great result too. But I'm going to show you what we did and what the trust enabled us to get. So here are a few of the things. We used 2 cameras. One of them is filming me right now. So I can show you this one here, and it is on something called a gimbal. So this is a Nikon. This is a camera that we use for close-ups. It's mirrorless. The other camera is a DSLR camera. This is super technical. You don't need to know this, but if you're here because you're an artist and you're here to learn, then also ask me questions and we can give you more specifics, anything that is going to help you out. This groovy piece of equipment here balances, and when it's set up, enables one to kind of move the camera around and take moving, smooth close-ups. So you'll see some of those in the concert, and it makes for a really engaging way of recording a music. So that's called a gimbal, the thing that's down here, and then this lovely camera. We also used tripods. So we used 2 cameras, 2 camera angles. We had one person filming, so this was not like a huge production. It was, you know, pretty small to medium. So we had one person who was able to move around with those. And then we also have various microphones, I think 5, let's think about this. So we've got 4 close-up microphones. Wilde Roses is a trio. We have 2 singers, myself and Emily Baines was singing and playing woodwind instruments, bagpipes recorders, which she could also put through her vocal mic. So we have 2 of these. Shure microphones. Again, I can put all of the details in the information below the video if you're curious about full details of the equipment. So we had 2 microphones, one for me and her, one for my instruments, which is one of these things, which is just pointing at that, an MXL, and then an AKG 414, which was used for Angier's lutes and guitars. You're going to see Angierhöchsten, that is. And so those 4 close-up microphones were then balanced out with a stereo pair. So what we are getting from the point of view of recording sound is some close-up, so you get the focus sound, you hear the sound as though you were pretty close to the performer, but then you want some of also the sound of this beautiful church. So that is coming from microphones that are further away. They're a stereo pair, we call it. So they pick up sound as though they are your ears, sort of that sort of distance apart, and they take in the whole atmosphere from the church as well. So these things all go into a mixer, and we have this lovely Behringer mixer just here that takes those, and of course there's other things that you can't see, for example laptops that are going in there, and we also used a couple of lights, but that gives you an idea of some of the technical equipment. Again, if you want to ask me questions, then do anatam.co.uk or wilderoses.com. Just find us, ask us questions. We would love to help other artists. After we filmed the concert, we used a couple of programs, computer programs, to create the video. Again, there's lots to choose from, and I'm sure many other programs would work brilliantly, but I used Adobe Premiere to put the camera angles together. So now we have 2 cameras, and we need to choose each moment, whether we want to close up or whether we want to see the whole band. And then we also mix the sound in Logic. This comes to part of the major learning that I was able to do through this, through the support, because I had some lessons in sound engineering, and I would like to give a shout out to the amazing Ignacio Lusardi Monteverdi, who's also mixed and mastered my first solo album, Anchoress, so and Wilde Roses' album, most recent album, Woven. So his fantastic work on those meant that I knew this would be a wonderful person to get some lessons from. So we talked about close mics and the more distant ones. Now when you take those sounds all into Logic, then you choose how much of each you want, how much focused sound you need, how much clarity from the voice, or how much of the sort of wash of sound. If you have a perfect acoustic and everything is perfectly balanced and spaced, sometimes people would just use the room mics. That's a great way of doing it, and it just depends. It depends on the acoustic of the church, it depends on what you're doing. These days people usually use close-up ones as well. One of the challenges that can create, actually, once you put it all in and you see the waves, is that sometimes these waves don't go together so well and we have phase issues, so then we have to switch things around there. That's a technical thing that I learned a lot about. I also learned about compression, which is bringing together the dynamic range, and can be useful also to boost some of those dynamics. So sometimes you'll see that Emily and I aren't the same distance away from the microphones because perhaps we've had a little bit different training. So I used compression in order to boost up Emily's voice, so to make it louder to balance with the rest of the sound. Something that's really interesting when you start to think about how you listen to sound, supposing you're in a concert, and how all of the instruments, the voices are coming from slightly different places and where you're hearing them from. This is called panning, when we put that into two speakers or two headphones, and we choose not to have a complete blend of the sound coming equally to you, but to take maybe some of the instruments in your right ear, some in your left ear more. So by panning, we're choosing to take things a little bit in different directions. It makes everything seem more real. So a lot about what I'm trying to do when I mix sound is to create the experience for somebody of being in the room with me, when of course they're not. So it's doing everything you can to make that experience. So it's probably a good moment to have another little listen to what we've got in the concert. Now you know all of these things.
Ave Maria, I sei taught on blessed Lord, that Mother is with Emmanuel's born. There's some words of me, the angel Gabriel sent to Mary, born there and alone in
So thank you so much. Please follow the link below in the video information to watch the concert, and there are also many ways in which you can support my music through donating through PayPal, becoming a patron. Just search Patreon Anna Tam. Again, there's links below. You can also buy our albums and subscribe to this channel. I have a few shout outs to Ignacio Monteverdi for his amazing sound engineering help and lessons, and also to Chris Brody, who is the person behind the camera and is also the person behind the camera right now. He's at cbrody.com and is wonderful for all kinds of IT support as well as with the filming. And I just want to say a huge thank you again to the Royal Philharmonic Society Enterprise Fund in association with Harriet's Trust for helping us out.